joining us on Debbie's Back Porch. Well, we're so busy today. There's so much going on. I've already started dinner, but I'm going to kind of show you what I'm doing. We're going to have more than one thing for dinner, so if you see other pans and pots while I'm cooking, then you'll know it's not dirty pans and pots. They're in use, and dinner is kind of an ongoing thing right now. I'm going to make some smothered pork chops. Somebody in the group asked for that a while back, and I had two beautiful pork chops from pastured pork that we bought at a processor up in LJ, Waldrop's, and I've been waiting to cook them and wanted to do something special with them. So we're going to do smothered pork chops, and the pork chops are already cooking, so I'm talking kind of fast. So let's get going and I'll show you how we do it. Here, 2 cups of croutons, dried bread, however you want to do it. You could use cornbread. I'm going to sprinkle a little rosemary and some sage. And I'm going to be really generous with the sage. Probably going to end up being about a tablespoonful. And this is the sage that, if you've watched my videos, you've seen me dry this. And I'm going to rub it and crinkle it up. I always have a couple of little stems in there that I pull out, because this is not from the store, this is from the backyard. And on top of this, I'm going to pour a cup of chicken broth. You can use any kind of broth you like. You can actually even use water. But I missed lots of stems on this one. We just want enough to moisten it up a little bit. Just set this aside. We'll use it later. Here I'm going to bread our pork chops, because we start out with breaded pork chops. And this is self-rising flour, so it has salt in it. If you're using plain flour, you want to add a little salt to it, about half a teaspoonful per cup. I have my pork chops here, actually in ice water. Whoops, might need a bigger plate. I didn't dry them off, because the flour's going to do that. It's going to soak up that moisture, and I want the flour to stick. So I'm not adding any milk or egg wash, just the water and the flour. I am going to get a bigger plate. How I try always end up with several dirty plates. Okay, those are breaded well. And I'll be back. Okay, next step. I have a good hot pan here. Let's check it to see how hot it is. And you see that it sizzles. This is, gosh, I think it's my Wagner pan. I have these pretty pork chops. Oh, by the way, that's about a 1/4 cup of lard. in the bottom. We're going to brown these up just a little bit. Not going to cook them totally done, but we do want them nice and brown and get a little crispy crust on the outside. And while those are browning, we'll go on with the rest of our prep. Be back. Okay. Let's turn these over. And the rule of frying, of course, is you don't turn them over until they're brown on the first side. We're not going to cook these done. Nah, they're so big. We're just going to brown them, and then we're going to finish them in the oven. And they're going to be pretty much like a braised meat. Not quite a braised, but it's very close. And it will make them tender. So I'm only going to let these cook another couple minutes, then I'll take them out. We'll do the rest of the steps. Okay, we're going to take these up. Now, as I said, they're not done. These are very thick pork chops. I would be cooking them low and slow if I were just frying them. I have here, I'm going to kind of measure because I want to have a 1/4 cup of oil. Let me turn it off. And I'm going to add about a 1/4 cup of flour to this. And I'm actually using the flour that was left over from the breading, just because I don't want to waste it. Turn my heat back on, and I'm going to make a dark roux here. Not as dark as brown gravy, but I do want some browning. And there's some fond left down in there from where we fry the pork chops, and that's fine. Little chunks. They'll be very flavorful. Okay. I think that's probably brown enough. Now I'm going to add 2 cups of chicken broth. You could use beef broth, and if you have pork broth, you could use that. Chicken broth is kind of your default broth. It's pretty neutral in flavor. Now we do not want this to get too thick, not as thick as gravy, because it has time in the oven to cook. It's starting to thicken up. Now we're going to add 1 cup of whole milk. You can use half and half. You can use cream. I wouldn't use 2% or skim milk. I'm going to let that sit there and simmer on a slow heat. I'm going to turn your attention to another pan. Okay, I have about 2 tablespoons full of butter melting in this pan. I have 1 whole medium onion, and it's a rough chop. This is not a finely minced onion, this is a rough chop. I have a tablespoonful of minced garlic. I'm going to turn my heat up on this fairly high. And I have about 1.5 cups of mushrooms. And this truly is about this and about that. Your onion, your mushroom. If you don't have mushrooms, that's fine too. You want this as a flavoring, and it really helps. Normally I would make a mirepoix and then add the gravy, the roux to it, but this is a lot, and so I cook them separately. And I have the gravy sitting over there, very, very low heat. And it's not going to get too thick because I put half again as much liquid as I normally would. Because a 1/4 cup and a 1/4 cup fat, 1/4 cup flour, you would normally use 2 cups of liquid with that to make a gravy or a sauce. And I've put 3 cups in because this is going to be baked and we're going to add stuff to it. So it's not going to get too thick on us. And with these onions and mushrooms and garlic to cook until they start releasing their lovely flavors. Some folks like to add bell peppers to this too, and that's good if you have them and you want to add them. Be just perfect. I'm going to go ahead and sprinkle this with about a 1/2 teaspoonful of salt. And I'm going to add just a tiny touch, just a 1/4 teaspoonful of red pepper flakes. And you can use black pepper if you prefer. Okay. To this I'm going to add the breadcrumbs. Remember we put a cup of chicken broth. And a little sage and a little rosemary. So what we have here is very close to, if you added celery, it would be dressing, stuffing. Okay, now I'm going to turn your attention back. this is where I make the absolute mess. I've turned the heat off on my little pan. And I'm going to mix this mixture in with the gravy. Oops, let me turn my oven on to 350. There, I think we've got it all. Now we're going to add our pork chops. I'm going to put them down in there. And yes, we have a pan full. Let's pull that gravy and the mixture up on top of our pork chops. Pretty full. I'm going to put a lid on this and put it in the oven for about 25 minutes and we'll be back. Well, here they are out of the oven, all brown and crispy and bubbly. I'm going to plate this up for you. I'm not even going to talk about what a mess my kitchen is right now. Too many pans, too many plates. It's a special treat. I'll be back in a few. Well, here you have it. This is a smothered pork chop. And it's almost a meal in one. It is fall apart tender. Cooking it in the oven with the gravy just tenderizes it and makes the flavor go all through it. I'm sorry, you hear my dog barking. I think she wants some pork chop. Thank you for joining us on Debbie's Back Porch. So glad to have you. We'll see you again tomorrow.